And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the story behind the story, the 16th day of March. Hey, hope you're planning a good St. Patty's Day tomorrow. It'll be a fun day to put on the green. Yes, indeed. Oh, golly, ladies and gentlemen, I had a show planned today to go and expose Big Pharma. We'll probably get to that in the second hour. But early this morning, I was working on a story behind this story. I have known for many years, at least last 15 years, just how the National Electoral College is rigged. And I've been trying to wake up people. You know, one of the biggest distractions to me is good, well-meaning people thinking that we have a free election process. We have people so involved in the national politics that they lose sight, really, of it's all a big hoax. I mean, a huge, gigantic hoax. Now, that's not to say that on the local level that votes mean something. They likely do. But what good does it do to slug away at the local level if everything on the federal level is absolutely controlled? Make a little bit of difference on a local level, but ultimately everything that you do is being flushed down the proverbial toilet by these Edomite handlers at the national and even international level. I know this, again, is eye-raising information, jaw-dropping information. I understand that. Is it important to understand? I submit it is. This is something that the grassroots American Christians have got to stand up and say enough. Enough of this incredible lunacy. I want this story to go viral as much as possible. It's not being discussed, not being talked about. You know, there's so much disinformation. The National Defense Authorization Act. People are so wrong about that NDAA. I hear it all the time. Oh, they're going to go and arrest them citizens. They cannot. That NDAA, the original language was very troubling. I admit that, but it's not true that Americans can be arrested just because of their political affiliation or what they say or do. It's just not true. That final draft of the NDAA had some very restrictive wording placed in there that this will never be construed to include American citizens. It's American citizens that are protected. This National Defense Authorization Act is merely, ladies and gentlemen, it's always been, every year there's an NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, that funds the Pentagon. It's the Pentagon's pork barrel bill, okay? And every December you get some people get all upset about what they see. They think that just seeing the original version put out by the Edomites in Congress is the way it's going to end up being at this final vote tally. They just don't do their homework, and they don't read that the final version that Obama didn't really want to sign because it did restrict his abilities to what he wanted to do to the American people. But I like that NDAA. I love it because it gives us protection against the Patriot Bill. You see, the Patriot Act is the dangerous one. Now, I have no problem in debating that. But it's clear the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, flat out does not give the government the right to indefinitely and without habeas corpus rights to have martial law and all that. Is just not there. It's not there in the bill. Just a bunch of fear-mongering. So, we need to focus as patriots, we need to focus on this vote scam and stop the media from being complicit in this. I know that's a huge job because but it's prima facie evidence of the Edomite conspiracy to dominate and control. Prima facie evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to go back to figure out who the Bolsheviks are. The Edomite Bolsheviks of Joseph Stalin, Vlad Lenin, and the other massacre. You talk about millions and 66 plus million Christians massacred in the Soviet republics. The central theme of Joseph Stalin's government, ladies and gentlemen, the central core truth is this statement, and I quote, "Those who cast the votes decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything." Those who, you see, not only count the votes, but those who tell the media what and who the winners are decide everything. Please go to my website, www.atruot.com. The headline is, "The election process is rigged. There is no vote." Follow the links there, ladies and gentlemen. Go to votefraud.org, Joseph Stalin vote fraud page. You will be stunned. Joseph Stalin, you see, and the whole Bolshevik movement are Edomites. These are the people who say they are Jews but are not Jews, but are of the synagogue of Satan, Revelation chapter 3, verse 9. Don't you get it yet, ladies and gentlemen, why I keep harping about the Edomites? It is the root cause of problems in not only this country, but the world, and they are the aggressors. They are the ones who would destroy Christian America. It does really no good to claim yourself a Christian. It does no good to follow Jesus Christ if you ignore the Edomite question. If you ignore his words, Jesus of Nazareth's words, against the Edomite Pharisees of his day and age. "You hypocrites, you are of your father the devil, and his lusts you shall." This cabal of organized crime, mafioso, have systematically established the State of Israel. They did this in 1948. They did this completely and totally by means of people like Meyer Lansky and the Wall Street barons, the mafioso barons, Goldman Sachs and others. It all goes back to one of the most evil houses in the world, the bloodline house of Rothschild. Who do you think funded Stalin and Lenin into power? I have right here in my hands this book, Dossier, The Secret History of Armand Hammer, by Edward J. Epstein. Yes, a Jewish writer and author. Edward J. Epstein government studies at Cornell and Harvard, taught political science at Harvard, MIT, and UCLA. Howard J. Epstein's dossier, The Secret History of Armand Hammer, explains detail by in FBI files who Armand Hammer was, how he gave hard money from Wall Street to the Bolsheviks, and how they massacred White Russia and the Tsar. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story behind the story. You have to understand how it's all tied together. These Edomites want to give you the appearance. Any hoax has to appear legitimate. They have to give you an official look front. They want the goy, the human Christian cattle, the livestock. They want them to believe they have a voice, just exactly like Stalin and Lenin wanted the Russian peasants to believe they had a voice. But they don't. It's controlled. It is a giant smoke and mirrors hoax. This puppet we call the president and his vice president, president of vice, are appointed. And they have been, ladies and gentlemen, since their puppet JFK went on his own and had to be removed by a violent coup d'etat. You have electronic, computerized voting, folks. Now you got to picture how this works. Every state is linked to a central computer, whether it's Diebold or some other company. This software is all maintained through Tel Aviv, Israel, through their phone bank system and telecommunication system, all again controlled by Edomite bloodlines. So you go into the little booth and pull the button. It doesn't matter because, you see, they've already determined which states will win, who will win, and who will lose. They already have that determined. Once in a while, they get their wires crossed a little bit. They get a little bit off on the wrong page, folks. Remember 2004 elections where Al Gore 2000 elections were. The national news media projected that Al Gore would win Florida, but in reality, Bush won it, and the election turned. See, that's how it works. They kind of have to mainstream a little bit, because here's the process, folks. The organized crime AIPAC, Israel, Edomite leaders, they determine who will be the winner. They'll determine how it's all set up state by state by state to make it appear to be a little close, because you see, that's the way they want it to be. They want it to be a close neck and neck tie, or close as they could possibly be, to make you think you've got single voice vote, making it happen. It's what they want you to think. It's not what's reality. So you tune in to your nightly news, whether it's ABC, CBS, or NBC, or CNN, or Fox. They're all controlled, folks, every one of them, and project state by state. Oh, we project this winner. Well, how is it done? Oh, they say, well, it's scientific. It's very scientific. We have these Harvard and Princeton trained mathematicians through an exit poll structure. We can project very, very strong certainty who will be the winner. Oh, yeah? Since when does less than 0.5% of an exit poll determine a winner? Statistical numbers. I took statistics in college, folks. You need to have at least a 15% poll to make it valid. You'd have to have less than 0.5% doesn't mean diddly squat. You should have 30 to 40% exit polling, and then it's still got a 10 to 15% margin of error. I kid you not, ladies and gentlemen. You got to think. You got to use that thing on top of your head for something besides a hat rack. I cannot believe the people in this country who maintain that this is a democracy. They don't even know what it means to be a republic, first of all, and they don't even understand how the system works. Your vote in the national elections is nothing. Joseph Stalin, those who cast the votes decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything. Folks, this is a 1920 roaring 20s quote. It's absolutely verified and validated by the whole Bolshevik vote scam system they installed in the 20s and 30s and throughout the Cold War era in Russia. And it's just the same thing. Why do you think Barack Hussein Obama received so much Russian support financially? Yes, that's a breaking story, folks. In 2008, Barack Hussein Obama received major financial contributions from Russian billionaires and people tied to Putin. Edomites, ladies and gentlemen. The Edomite tribe. The good news is, golly, they're about 2% of the American population. They're a minority, yet, by golly, because of their organized crime placement, they control so much. They buy their influence. They spread the money. They spread the mammon around very well. It really blows me away over the course of the last 15 years. You see, they've kept a lot of the information pretty close to the vest, but in these primary elections, they really have the chutzpah. They have the nerve to start declaring winners on the national media with less than 1% of the vote counting. They admit that. They're just laughing in the goys' faces. Folks, you have to go to my website and watch the video on this. The South Carolina primary, which crowned Newt Gingrich over Romney. Well, how did that happen? How did they declare Gingrich with less than 1% of the vote? Oh, yes, they have Edison Research exit polling. Scientifically, they're able to tell you who the winner is in South Carolina. Oh, yeah? Who was Edison Research, folks? Oh, yes, the top guy, the mover and shaker of Edison Research, the co-founder and the president and CEO, an Edomite fellow named Larry Rosen. I just took a few minutes and did a brief sketch on Larry Rosen, and go the New Jersey Jewish News.com website tells telling the secrets of 2008 election, telling really what's going on, how Rosen, first and foremost, gets a gauge across this country of the Edomite preferences, the synagogues of Satan's preference. They know first and foremost who is going to be appointed based on what level of promises and, yes, whatever level of blood is taken out of them, promises made to Israel and the Edomite controllers. And then they decide who will be given 4 years of the stage to share. The puppet. It's a puppet with strings attached. Folks, there is nothing to do with honesty and integrity and voting and doing what's right in this country. I've had a belly full of it because I just can't get through to people that it needs to have massive changes done, and we the people have got to wake up. We the people have got to make a stand. Call a spade a spade. By golly, we've got to make some changes. State by state, county by county, town by town. It has to start on the grassroots level. You know, if it means revolution, well, by God, it better happen. Because we just can't keep going down this road. The world will end in massive war. That's the Edomite goal, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to understand that. You've got to understand what their ultimate agenda is. You've got to understand who the Mormons are, with the Edomites' connections with them. You've got to understand who Mittens Romney is, and his core beliefs that he will be the one to build the third temple in Jerusalem. You got to understand what that means. It's a temple of Lucifer. It's not the temple of Jesus Christ. He died on the cross, ladies and gentlemen, and the veil of that temple was rent. The Holy of Holies was opened up to all men and women, no matter if you're Edomite or Israelite, Jew or Gentile, black or white, male or female. It was open to all flesh. All you have to do is accept in humility his gift. How simple is that? But you see, that's not what Lucifer wants you to believe. It's not what they want you to follow. They have to have smoke and mirrors, satanic rituals involving children. They have to keep all of this hidden because, you see, they are the father of lies and deception. The Goy, the Christian Goy, is trusting. It's easily sucked into hoaxes. They know how to manipulate the mindset. You tell the Goy a big enough lie often enough and they'll believe it is truth. They'll even fight to defend the hoax. That's the amazing thing. They are so prideful oftentimes, they don't want to ever admit that they had been duped. They don't want to admit that they have been wrong. And so the lunacy continues. Again, what is the definition of lunacy? It's doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. It all begins with money, ladies and gentlemen. It really, truly does. We are dependent upon this fractional reserve system called the Federal Reserve. We are so dependent in a false way on, again, their dollar bill with the all-seeing eye on it, that we don't realize that all money is, all currency has ever been, is simply a substance to facilitate trade among people. That's all it ever is, folks. America is a fantastically wealthy country because we have natural resources. We have people that are industrious, that work for a living. We have educated people. We have Christian people that fellowship with each other. You see, if somebody raises a fruit tree in a nursery, that is a good. It's good. It provides fruit. It provides shade. It provides an asset, see. But if somebody needs to go buy a fruit tree, they need to have a currency that's agreed upon to exchange. Whatever he does for society, he or she does for society, should be rewarded with a currency that allows him or her to go out and make purchases. That's all money is, simply. And it's the role of government to provide that currency that's honest without having to be charged usury, which is an absolutely Edomite, satanic dogma. You understand this, folks? The role of government, whether it's a state government, yes, whether it's even a local government governments can print their own specie, their currency, and make their own bank entries if it's, again, based on sound numbers of production, of asset value. You start, as a government, start flooding the country with too much specie, you see you have a problem of hyperinflation or massive deflation cycles. But based, you see, on asset tabulations and the workforce additions of energy, you can come to exactly how much money, how much specie, how much currency needs to be put into the system each and every year and month and week. You see, that's the big lie again of the Edomite banksters, the corrupt bankers. Oh, Mitt Romney has $150 million to spend on his campaign, and Rick Santorum has X number of dollars. You see, come on. Where do they get this so-called money? Yeah, some individuals, corporations give them, but the biggest lion's share of it comes from the banksters, ladies and gentlemen. And it's all a mirage. I don't care if Mitt Romney made $21 million or $250 billion. It's all a mirage. It's all a flippin' mirage. Now you have Larry Rosen and company telling people in each and every state who is going to be their victor in their election process, and it hasn't even been tabulated yet. It's incredible, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely an incredible hoax. Because what's incredible is people still keep buying into it. They still keep thinking it's valid to go and get their little sticker put on their shirt saying, I voted for the winner. Woo! Let's take a break. We'll come back with more after these messages. Stay tuned. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the story behind the story. Let's make sure we're clear about what I'm talking about here. The organized crime umbrella, the massive umbrella. When Meyer Lansky brought together all of the Edomite, Sicilian, Roman Catholic mafioso with Lucky Luciano. When Meyer Lansky, the ultimate Edomite, one of the movers and shakers forces of the state of Israel, when they brought all these together under the umbrella, one of the goals they outlined was that they would be able to infiltrate and control the elections, the election process, and the very halls of government. The highest levels, ladies and gentlemen. The question you need to ask yourself is, has this happened? Has this occurred? Who do you think the Kennedy clan was in the 60s? Who do you think Richard Milhouse Nixon and the syndicate crime family called the Bush Syndicate was all about? Joseph Kennedy made his millions, made his fortune by running guns running bootlegging booze for the mob. John Fitzgerald and Bobby, they thought, were easily controlled. They thought it was simple, but they were mistaken. Lansky, Lucky Luciano, and this umbrella, they're meeting 1931 at the height of the Great Depression, the Franconia Hotel in New York City, November 11th, 11/11, Day of Infamy, ladies and gentlemen. That's when the Edomite syndicate came united. Bugsy Siegel, the Purple Gang, including Horowitz and Company in Detroit, Jacob Shapiro, Hyman Curly Holtz, Louis Shadows Kravitz, Harry Teitelbaum. These are just some of the names, ladies and gentlemen. Harry Big Greenie Greenberg. I'm sorry if I'm so anti-Semitic to tell you who these Edomite Jewish mafioso are. I'm sorry if that is so anti-Semitic to tell you how they organized and controlled this country, how they utilized their wealth, their power to establish their own nation state and call it Christian Israel. God's chosen people? I don't think so. They're the authors of murder and mayhem and war and shooting down their opposition and making them live in fear and opposition. They live by the sword, the machine gun, the Tommy gun, ladies and gentlemen. They carry out their vendettas very well. These are the Edomites. Roman Catholic Edomites, Synagogue of Satan Edomites. Still, they may be cousins, but they are united under the same God, the Dark Lord of death and destruction. I get this all the time, folks. I do. I was on Tex Mars's show yesterday. God bless Tex Mars's ministry. I tell you, this gentleman has been putting out the truth about the Jews. Like I told him on the show, I don't like to call them Jews because there is Jews that are religious Jews that are not bloodline, and it's not a religion that we're fighting against. And the Jew is a name like a religion, like a Mormon. I don't fight against the Mormons. I love the Mormon people. I'm of that culture. But I fight against the principalities and powers and evil in high places. And this is what the Bible calls the agents and the descendants of Edom, the Edomites of Esau. That's who they are. Bloodline. Nationality. Pastor Eli James likes to call them Chosenites. By any other name, they still stink like raw sewage. They are the father of lies and death and destruction, and they are pure evil, folks. Let's define evil. We all know evil is, we can smell it, we see it. Lies, when people say something to your face and then stab you in the back and then go out and murder your dog, that's evil. You know it's evil. It's the opposite of honor and truthfulness and integrity, you see. Totally opposite of that. So, evil is best defined simply as an absence of Christ's consciousness. The more absent Christ's consciousness is in a person and the person's works and actions, the more hideously evil it is. Whether it's a mass Edomite murder like Jeffrey Dahmer. Oh, that's pretty evil. Like not only do you mass serial kill people, you make them for cereal in the morning. You eat them. Yeah, eat them. Edomites eat them. I chuckle, but it's deadly serious, folks. Deadly serious. I have people all the time saying, well, why do you dislike Israel? You gotta look at it as study. Hey, if my study showed them to be really, truly God-fearing, Christian-based principle, even though they don't agree with Christ, at least they're living good, moral, upright lives and treating Palestinians with honor and respect in the first place, maybe, they could be given the support they need, but they're not. They are organized mafioso crime figures, folks. People challenge me and says, well, Meyer Lansky, what does he got to do with Israel? He's got everything to do with Israel. It was his law firm, his associates, the Wall Street barons, you see, tied with Meyer Lansky and his organized crime syndicate that organized the Irgun terrorism, that organized these bloody bombings and attacks in the 1940s. Go to my website, check it out. Netanyahu gets on there and says that Iran is this big purveyor of world terrorism. No. Netanyahu gets on and says we can't have Iran having the bomb, because if they do, they'll have umbrella sanctioning of their worldwide terrorist attacks. They'll have the chutzpah to attack New York City, maybe even bring down some skyscrapers, and nobody will dare challenge them because they are the big gorilla with the nuclear sledgehammer. Hey, he just described himself. When Israel and the organized mafioso controlling it received the bomb, received enriched nuclear fissile material in the 1962 and 63 area, when John Fitzgerald Kennedy got a full whiff of that odorous evil, he didn't let it stand, did he? He was busy trying to stop it. Word has it, again from Vanunu and others, he was seriously contemplating a preemptive military strike on Dimona. That's, according to Vanunu, why he was taken out, massacred. Was assassinated by who? Lee Harvey Oswald? The little shaky little patsy? This guy from the school book depository that shot magic bullets out of his simple little Mauser gun? No. Mafia hitman, ladies and gentlemen. One of the big Jewish mafia figures and hitman is a guy named Jack Rubenstein, who changed his name to a more Goyim-sounding Jack Ruby. Shut up, this little patsy named Lee Harvey Oswald, before he could start spilling the beans. You see? And on and on it continues to the point where they do their vetting. The Edomites vet their candidates very well. They groom them, make their choices. Nobody has been more well groomed for this post than Mittens Romney. Orit Gadish, his close confidant, I agree, I think it's safe to say Orit Gadish is his handler, his Mossad handler. She has shadowed him every step of the way through their days together at Harvard Business School, and into Bain and Company and Bain Capital. It's just unbelievable when you start connecting the dots. The Jewish mafia, the Edomite mafia, ladies and gentlemen, are very powerful, very real. Out of that November 11th, 1931 meeting at the Franconia Hotel, out of that came some truly incredible visions of not only domination of this country's vices, from prostitution to pornography to drug usage to murder to political intrigue to corruption and bribery in police forces and the Brotherhood of Fraternal Order of Police, to Masonic lodges, B'nai B'rith, and chapels, and it's an incredible infiltration based on the all-powerful dollar bill, the symbol of Mammon, the demon Mammon. Mammon is an entity. It's a demonic entity, a legion of Lucifer, ladies and gentlemen. So you see how it connects. Oh yes, infiltrate into, from the 1930s on, with the help of Rockefeller and other agents, all of the Board of Regents controlled curriculum of what is taught in American schools, public and higher education universities. Oh yes, that's all a part of it. And no, make no mistake, it's what is taught in the so-called Christian seminaries, theological seminaries. They'll never teach that modern-day Israel is Edom, and the synagogue of Satan is the Edomite-controlled Khazarian Ashkenazi sects. Oh, they'll never talk about that, because, you see, they teach instead that Israel is the epitome of God's chosen people. It's God's chosen race. They'll never teach the Bible truths that Jerusalem was cursed by Christ himself. Behold, your house, in other words, your bloodline, your lineage is left unto you desolate. Desolation means it's just lacking life. It's purely evil. If you lack life itself, if you lack the light of Christ itself, you are pure evil. And from this house, you see desolation in its wake. You see death and destruction. Who split the atom, ladies and gentlemen, in the first place? See? Who was in charge of the so-called Manhattan Project in the first place? Do your homework. So, some people argue, well, if this Edomite tribe split the atom in the first place, then why shouldn't they be allowed to give it to their brethren in Israel and in Russia and in China and in the United Kingdom? Well, ladies and gentlemen, simply because the American people brought the material together. It's American material in the deserts of New Mexico and Texas. See, that brought this genie out of the bottle, so to speak, this terrible destructive force. It's American people that should decide whether to put the genie back in the bottle and to bury the bottle in the sand. Who are we as a people, folks? Who are we as a nation? Do we really, truly have compassion? Do we truly care about this planet? Do we care about other people in other countries? And as far as giving them the basic freedoms of human rights to pursue life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness in their own sphere? Who are we? If America as a whole understands the Edomite story and makes a conscious decision at that point to continue to advance the cause of Satan and Lucifer and the synagogue of Satan, then so be it. I don't think that's who we are as a people. Because, you see, I think America across the board is basically good. They are good, honest, hardworking people. You know, they might lie and cheat a little bit here and there, but I think, again, it's mostly white lies. It's like the fisherman that likes to tell a story of the big whopper that goes away. With every story that's told, it gets a little bit bigger. That's part of Americana. Nothing wrong with that. It's just fun between friends. But when it comes down to it, folks, I think America has just been flat out deceived. The so-called wool has been pulled over the sheeple's eyes. It's hard to see through the wool. It's got to start somewhere. You got to start and explain who they are. Who has done this? Who is the enemy that has done this, you see? Unless and until you correctly identify the enemy, you're swinging around with your eyes covered. You're swinging blindly. And that's exactly what the Edomite minority, is counting on. They do not want people to wake up. They cannot afford, even at this late date and hour, they cannot afford Americans to become alert and awake. It's a spiritual awakening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, just you got to come to an awakening of who Jesus is too. The author of truth. Remember, he said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. There's only one rescue plan. It's basically like this. And again, my Mormon friends say, well, I am this great person. I'm spiritually strong because I do so many good works. Here's way I explain it to them. I said, look, let's honestly believe, if you think you can come out in this backyard or this field and use your works, use your ability to jump to the moon, is that realistic? You know, one person who's a little hobbled by sin and has done some bad works may only be able to jump 6 inches off the ground. Somebody else who was trained all of his life, has done nothing but good, hard work, has trained his spiritual muscles. You see, that person might be able to jump 6 feet. He can jump much higher than the person straddled with sin and hasn't done the works. But are they still getting to the moon? You see, this is a parable, but it's absolutely the truth of the Bible. We have been separated from God by sin, by a conscious decision on the part of our first parents to follow the fallen angel, to listen to him and to follow him into the lone and dreary world called this planet. We followed him here and we separated from God. That is the moon, ladies and gentlemen. And no matter how hard we jump, our human efforts cannot bridge that gulf of empty space, getting back to him. We needed a rescue plan. We need a rescue plan. We need a rocket ship to take us back to Father. We need something that is going to get us out of this earth gravity field. No matter how hard we jump by our works, we're not going to do it by ourselves. We have to jump on board the rocket ship. We have to get on board Christ's rescue ship. And that'll take us, so no matter how hard we work, no matter how high we jump, we're all in the same sphere, we're all in the same boat, and we better get on board right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about religion, it's about truth, it's about spirituality. We'll come back at the top of the hour for Kentucky Free State. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the story behind the story. Top of the hour. Yeah, let's do American Jeopardy, and if we can do the music, just let it keep running until the question is over. Let people just enjoy the music, too. Okay, here we go. He's a communist tyrant and mass murder of 60-plus million people. His best, probably most important quote is simply, "Those who cast the votes decide nothing. Those who count the votes decide everything." That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the question. What's the answer? Who was Joseph Stalin? Ooh, yes. The Red Edomite. Died in 1953, born in 1879. It's incredible. Incredible story. There's a great website. Let's show the link on my website. It's simply called votefraud.org. The Joseph Stalin page. Because, studying Stalin, you get a pretty doggone good example of the Edomite agenda. Does your vote really count? Here's Intervention Magazine. I just want to give this. The interventionmagazine.com, about the world and how things work. Yeah, they basically came out and said, are we really, is our votes really counting? Yeah. Right there, it's getting more and more questionable when you see the blatant disregard for reality. I mean, when you come out and you see that they're picking the winners in the primaries with less than 1% votes tabulated. Are you kidding me? See, there's another. It's a Hartford Advocate, New Haven, Connecticut. Hartford Advocate newspaper. Great article there on really who counts the votes. See, where does the process go? When you go into that booth, whether it's in the caucuses or whatever state it is, you know, you go in there and push that button, pull that lever or whatever, just exactly how it works. And it's just a flat-out scam, a hoax. That's the reality. So what do we do about it? See, what do we do about it? That's a much bigger question. What do we do about it? It's not just Stalin. When you hear the advertisement on the station, well, the commercial. Hear the drums of the Illuminati. You know, the Illuminists have all gone on record about votes not counting. This is part of the synagogue of Satan, the so-called temples of Satan. Let me give you some quotes to think about. We already said, it's not the vote that counts, it's who counts the votes, Joseph Stalin. He also said this, quote, it doesn't matter who the people voted for, they always vote for us. And who was us? Again, it's the Bolshevik Edomites, ladies and gentlemen. They always vote for us. Arthur Schlesinger Jr., Foreign Affairs, the Foreign Affairs magazine. That's the organ, again, of the Council on Foreign Relations, CFR. Quote, we are not going to achieve a new world order without paying for it in blood as well as in words and money. See, they know the new world order will be one of bloody genocide, destruction. You see. Benjamin Disraeli, the United Kingdom statesman, said, quote, the world is indeed governed by personalities very different to what people that cannot see further than their eyes believe. That's what I've been trying to tell everybody on the story behind the story. It's much, much different than what the average sheeple believes. Vladimir Lenin said this, quote, behind the October Revolution, that's the Bolshevik Revolution, there are more influential personalities than the thinkers and executors of Marxism. Oh, yes, indeed. It's called the very richest people in the world. Riches as far as mammon is concerned. They're bankrupt. They're poor in reality because, you see, they have no life. They have no light of Christ. They have no testimony of Christ in their lives. And here is 33rd degree Freemason, along with his buddy in Washington, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Winston Churchill, 33rd degree Freemason, said, quote, "The one who cannot see that on earth a big endeavor is taking place, an important plan on which realization we are allowed to collaborate as faithful servants. The one who cannot see this certainly has to be blind." It's a problem with America. Just the vast majority are blinded by the lies. They're blinded not by the light of Christ, blinded by the lies, darkness of the Illuminati conspirators, these Edomites, ladies and gentlemen. Winston Churchill, again, the one who cannot see that on earth a big endeavor is taking place, an important plan on which realization we are allowed to collaborate as faithful servants, certainly has to be blind. Winston Churchill, a faithful servant of the Edomite overlords. Indeed, you certainly have to be blind not to see it. And there's no more person, man or woman, that is more blind than he who just simply will not look at the evidence. I don't want to think about it. It's too difficult. It just makes me upset. It makes my stomach ache because I can't handle this bad news. What you're really saying is you really don't know Jesus Christ, then. If you have that attitude, you really are just a fan of Jesus Christ. You don't follow him at all. George Herbert Walker Bush, when asked what would happen after the collapse of the Soviet Union, he referred to the Council on Foreign Relations. Again, the CFR is Edomite, Jesuit / Synagogue of Satan, Edomite controlled. Quote, "What we say goes." Pretty much sums up George Herbert Walker Bush's nose in the air superiority. What we say goes. FDR quotes, "In politics, nothing is accidental. If something happens, be assured it was planned that way." Mayor Amschel Rothschild himself. "Give me the power to control the nation's currency, and I care not who makes its laws." Cares not, and it doesn't matter who is in command. It doesn't matter who is in the White House. Give me the power over their money supply, and that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter. Because we'll control everything. We will control the electoral process. We will control the media. We will control everything by the power of mammon, the power of the money. What is that power of the dollar bill? John Todd is a gentleman that came forth and explained his involvement in the deepest of the darkest satanic cults operating in the eastern seaboard. The Masonic Council of 13, which again is B'nai B'rith, it goes back to the magicians, the Magi of Egypt. Again, it goes clear back many millennia, back to Esau and Edom once again. John Todd quotes, speaking of this is a 1991 interview regarding the symbolism on the back of the United States $1 bill, the epitome of mammon. Quote, the seal of the pyramid was created by the Rothschild family and brought to North America by Benjamin Franklin and Alexander Hamilton before 1776. The Rothschild family is the head of the organization in which I entered in Colorado. All of the occult brotherhoods are part of it. It is Lucifer's organization to install his reign in the whole world. The all-seeing eye on the pyramid is the eye of Lucifer. I know for a fact the Rothschilds have personal dealings with the devil, which is Satan, Lucifer. For I have personally been in his, Rothschild's, villa and have personally experienced it. And I know it to be true. How does he have personal dealings with the devil? How does he have personal dealings with Lucifer, ladies and gentlemen? This is where the sacrifices come in, the children sacrifices, the shedding of innocent blood on an altar, on the Black Sabbath ritual. This is how the dealings happen, you see. Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, and his personal correspondence, of which I have studied and researched back in the 90s in a major way when I was still Mormon. I uncovered that my great-great-great-grandfather had become a Master Mason after coming to Utah when he was put in as the Postmaster General. Brigham Young had arranged it. My ancestor had to travel all the way back across the plains to Boston, Massachusetts, and there receive the Master Mason degree before he could receive the post of postmaster under the eagle, you see. The Grand Master of all Freemasonry that at that time was none other than Albert Pike. He was director of the Boston Lodge and all of the Southern Lodges, founder of the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK Knights of disinformation agents across the board, like David Duke and others. June 4th, 1889, directed to all of the supreme councils of the lodges of the Illuminati, of the Edomite foundations. He writes, quote, to you, the sovereign instructors of grade 33. See, Mormonism, you see, has the juvenile instructors, Mutual Improvement Association. The instructor was their organ, their magazine. To you, the sovereign instructors of grade 33, we tell you, you have to repeat to all the brothers of the inferior grades, means a lower, less than 33rd degree, ladies and gentlemen, you have to repeat to the brothers of inferior grades that we worship only one God. There is only one God, not polytheism. There's only one God to whom we pray without any superstition. It is we, those initiates of the supreme grade, that are to keep the real Masonic religion preserving pure the Lucifer doctrine. Folks, I can go on for the next hour and two talking to you about these quotes, the real history here. But it all boils down to, I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about the Masons. I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about the Mormon temple rituals, which are Masonic. This is all, again, just appendages to the top of the food chain. This is the reason why we talk about Edomites, because when we talk about Edomites, it is really they who are in charge of the Masonic halls as well as everything associated with the secret societies. Jesus Christ, pure Christian Israel, has no need of secrecy. Christ taught it very clearly. Do you light a candle and place it under a bushel? Do you hide your light under a barrel? Or do you place it out in the dark for all the world to see as a beacon? Anything that is secret, ladies and gentlemen, has no place in the Christian ideal. That's simply put. Before the break, we talked about the parallel story of trying to jump to the moon. Of course, you know you're not going to jump to the moon. But ladies and gentlemen, the kingdom of God is just as unattainable as the moon by the puny efforts of man's hands. You cannot go to this kingdom by your works. You need Christ and His rescue plan. You need to jump on board with Him because He will take you there. Literally like a hen gathers her chicks in approaching danger. You ever seen a mother hen gather their chicks? It's a miracle. Those chicks, they'll come right out and come under and they're completely protected. They're nice and warm and safe. What an incredible promise. When you're blessed with the Holy Spirit and this Holy Spirit of truth enters your heart and your mind is quickened and you see the vision, you realize the incredible sacrifice that He gave for you on the cross where He died of a broken heart. You understand that. I mean, when you truly understand the sacrifice to become one with Him and commit to Him, to follow Him in all things, to be His disciple, you promise to stand for the truth of His gospel. You fight against those agents that would destroy that truth. What if I hear people coming out and saying, come out of this field and jump to the moon? We have a process where we can train your muscles. You can jump higher than anybody else in this whole country. Yeah, you can. You can have the strongest families in the world, you see. You can have the strongest set of moral codes. And you could jump higher than anybody else. But you still can't get to the moon, folks. Just simply can't get it done. And anybody that tells you that you can, simply taking your money and taking your underwear and giving you a false hope. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. I don't want to judge others. I just want to tell you the truth that I know. Anything that's based on a lie and a hoax, you better not hitch your wagon to it, folks. That's why I talk about Mormonism the way I do. It is an absolute counterfeit, false Christ and a false other gospel that Paul warned us about in his letters. Jesus himself said there will be many false Christs, many false prophets, that would even deceive the very elect. Who are the very elect, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, the Caucasian Christian Israel. I've had a lot of discussions with some good Mormon friends of mine, and they just listen, and I'm not sure what's really sinking in. This latest news grab, people in Utah are starting to raise their eyebrows because, you've got to be completely blind and brain dead not to see what's going on with the obfuscation and twisting going on about the blacks and the priesthood issue. You see, the fact of the matter is, folks, the Washington Post ran a story, and they called in and they got quotes from a tenured professor at Brigham Young University, a professor of religion, yes, an authority on the subject, and this good professor of religion at BYU told the truth about the Mormon Church's stand in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. The official declarations from the prophet and first presidency going back to the days of Brigham Young. Let me tell you, folks, it is as blatant racism as you've ever heard spoken. Even to, I can't even tell you. I can't even quote these quotes on this radio show, or the FCC would probably shut me down. This is not folklore. See, this is the problem. The official LDS Church and their Edomite PR firm called Edelman, come on. They actually have, I don't know how many millions of dollars to an Edomite Jewish PR Twistianity firm for public image and public relations. They issue the official response to this Washington Post story, saying that all of this quotes that were there by this BYU professor is all just folklore. It's all just myth. Never. No, the Mormons are completely supportive of the Negro race and other minorities. Oh, please. That is not the way it was. I want you to believe that Mormon prophets from Joseph Smith on down have been totally supportive and non-racial. Big lie, folks. Absolutely huge lie. As David O. McKay in the 60s re-emphasized the dogma of Mormonism has been that the Negro race is a direct descendant of Cain and through Ham, and are cursed by God to receive a black or darkened skin. Man, come on. Anybody that's been raised in Mormonism and born into the covenant as I have in the 1950s, they know that all the way growing up we were trained and taught that black men are inferior. As cursed men, they're dark and evil people. Now it's all just folklore? Didn't really happen? Folks, that's one of the problems I had with the Mormon Church's stand. I thought, I grew up, trying to be a good Mormon boy, trying to follow my parents, trying to go to all of my meetings and seminary classes, and to go on an LDS church mission when I'm 19 years old. And at the same time, I stand 6'7". I could jump pretty well for a white boy, but I grew up in a community called Hawthorne, Nevada, which was under affirmative action, was equal opportunity. We had as many black families in this segregated, non-segregated community of Hawthorne, Nevada, because of the government 1960s and 70s affirmative action. So I grew up my high school was a melting pot of nationalities. White boys like me, I'm a white. I'm talking to you about being Germanic, white, Norwegian. And they called me the ghost because my legs were just white snow. You know how it is trying to fit in when 9 of the 14 members on my basketball team were Negro or Indian? I know if there were 3 teammates that were white, but I was the whitest of the whiteys. I'm 6'7" and I could slam dunk and I could rebound, but not as good as my black teammates. I got to tell you, they could jump out of the gym. They had more physical ability by far that way than I did. But you see, and I was being trained in my Mormon studies that these were cursed people. They were cursed. They had physical abilities, but spiritually they were flat out terrible, evil people. But you know what? In spite of that training and propaganda, I developed very dear friendships with my black teammates. I realized they're very spiritual people. I realized that as a friend, they're good people. They care deeply, and they had integrity, and there's exceptions. There's evil black people, there's evil white people, but for the most part, they're great people. But I saw had no reason to call them evil just because the Book of Mormon says so, and the prophet David O. McKay says so. Folks, again, Mormonism is twistianity. They twist it. Twist, all for political gain, because they want their Mormon mittens Romney not to be questioned and negatively cast and dispersed. We'll take a break. We'll come back to the top of the second half of the hour. Wrap it up. Thanks for listening. This is the story behind the story. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The story behind the story. I've got to tell you that my eyes were opened again going into the dusty pages of my ancestors' journal, kept concealed in this musty trunk. Incredible papers. My dear mother wanted this to be documented. The papers of and the story basically shared with the daughters of the Utah pioneers. You see, this is part of Mormonism. If you can trace your ancestry back to early Mormonism, you kind of have a little bit of royalty there. You have a little bit of a leg up. You can jump a little higher when you try to reach the moon. And here I came across this old Masonic apron, the history and the story of him traveling all the way back from Utah, all the way back to the railhead in Florence, Iowa, getting all the way back, all of this paid for by Brigham Young, by order, to go back to the Boston Lodge, Boston, Massachusetts, the Grand Masonic Lodge. And there I actually saw his certificate. Completion of the Master Masonic degree. Again, that's what I said, my goodness. I'd always been taught, you see, growing up, that yes, Joseph Smith and Brigham Young were Masons, and yes, they had adopted much of the Masonic secrecies into the Temple Ordinance. But you see, Brigham Young taught, and so did Joseph Smith, that Masonry was the apostate endowment, and we have the right thing. So they built this temple in Nauvoo. They also had a Masonic temple in Nauvoo. But they built the white-walled, beautiful edifice of Nauvoo Temple to give the people the correct endowment, because you see, by their own teaching, the Masonic ceremony was apostate, was evil. So my ancestor, Joseph Maywood, receives his received his Mormon endowment in the Nauvoo Temple before coming across the plains in the year 1848. He is endowed by the correct ceremony. He gets to Utah. Brigham Young wants him to be Postmaster General of the Utah Territory, the territory of Deseret. And so he goes all the way back to the plains, because, you see, he cannot be a United States postmaster unless you are a master mason. So he has to go back, and Brigham Young makes it happen. All the same time, as postmaster, the couriers, the original precursors of the Pony Express riders, would carry dispatches across the trails, the Mormon Trail. Before telegraph wires and all that, there were dispatches, and dispatches were sent on a regular basis between Brigham Young and Grand Dragon Master Mason Albert Pike. Folks, it's hard to read history like that and see that it's different than what you think it is. So I began to study, well, is Albert Pike a good guy or a bad guy? See, this is all of my learning curve, my growth curve, and I began to read everything I could from Albert Pike. Got his original Morals and Dogma. And the original Morals and Dogma book is much different than the modern versions. Learned that Albert Pike, not only being the Grand Dragon the Grand Architect, the top of the food chain of American Freemasonry, we tied it into, again, to Giuseppe Mazzini, who is, again, the Edomite Jesuit connection to the Vatican, 33rd degree British and Italian Masonry. It's all the same. It's Edomite. Like I told you, ladies and gentlemen, it's all Edomite. We see that Albert Pike was the ultimate racist, and so we see Brigham Young just merely giving the rubber stamp to Albert Pike's dogma about racism and the black man, the Negro man. Albert Pike, you see, was a founding instigator of the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK. In the year 1868, you see, Brigham Young was still in a despotic role in Utah. The Civil War had just finished. The slaves were emancipated and were, in 1866, 67, given the vote. Oh, my goodness. Federal governments were actually appointing Negro judges. I kid you not, Negro judges and attorneys. So on April 16th, 1868, Albert Pike owned a paper called in Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, city of Memphis, the Egyptian city. The Daily Appeal newspaper. Again, Memphis, Tennessee is one of the real hotbeds of organized crime in this country. Memphis, the Pyramid City, right? Memphis, Tennessee. Albert Pike wrote in his own paper this editorial, which became the mantra for the Ku Klux Klan. Wrote, quote, with Negroes for witnesses and jurors, the administration of justice becomes a blasphemous mockery. A loyal league of Negroes can cause any white man to be arrested and can prove any charges it chooses to have made against him. The disenfranchised people of the Association South can find no protection, therefore, for property, liberty, or life except in secret association. Therefore, we would unite every white man in the South who was opposed to Negro suffrage into one great order of Southern brotherhood, with an organization complete, active, vigorous, in which a few should execute the concentrated will of all, and whose very existence should be concealed from all but its members. And so they go around, ladies and gentlemen, with white sheets on their, hiding their identities, burning crosses, burning black churches, and being basically a terrorist organization. What do they have to be afraid of? The poor black man that that are Christian? See, that's the very seeds of racism. And who was Albert Pike? Again, it's controlled opposition, you see. The epitome of racism. Albert Pike, Edomite, Masonic general, one of the instigators of the Civil War itself. Oh my goodness. And this Albert Pike, Grand Illuminist, this Edomite Satanist, ladies and gentlemen, has a huge monument in Washington, D.C. Now you know where Brigham Young got his racist views. He got it all from Albert Pike. Brigham Young was a Masonic disciple and loyal Mason soldier of Albert Pike till the day he died. Now that truth is not going to be talked about in your Mormon Sunday schools or your church meetings, but it's the fact. It's a fact. And it goes to the very core of the Illuminati Edomite agenda of the world control of Lucifer. This is who you see Mittens Romney is all about. This is what he is all about. The establishment of this Illuminati Edomite order, this new order of the world. So, again, what do we do about it? You have to understand, folks, that exposing this is really an important truth and key. They would kill people from learning this stuff. They'd kill to keep this information from coming out. Again, we go back to the book Morals and Dogma, page 103. The book written by Albert Pike, Sovereign Grand Commander. The Mother Supreme Council of the World, the Supreme Council of the 33rd and last degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. That's his title. Sovereign Grand Commander. Albert Pike, ladies and gentlemen, is Edomite all the way. Page 101 says this, quote, "Fictions are necessary to the people, and the truth becomes deadly to those who are not strong enough to contemplate it in all its brilliance." In fact, what can there be in common between the vile multitude and sublime wisdom? Therefore, the truth must be kept secret. And the masses need a teaching proportioned to their imperfect reason. Ooh, what Luciferian double talk that is. The masses, need the lies because they can't handle the truth. The truth is too brilliant for them. The truth is so bright and so freeing that it's deadly for them. They might get out of our grasp and become blinded to death by the beautiful rays of truth. See, that's Luciferian double talk, Hegelian dialectic in all of its glory. We got to justify lies. We got to justify keeping us because the stupid goy, this human cattle, this human herd, they're just too dumb to really benefit from the truth. They can't handle the truth. So here we go. And, I want to kind of conclude the last 15 minutes of the show today with, again, people ask me why I do alternative health products, why I do minerals, why my company, Mother Earth Minerals, was established, and they go on my website and they see my corporate logo, my trademark, and they immediately see that they think it's an Illuminati symbol. And I can understand why, they're looking at symbols. But here it is, folks. Again, the understanding of the seal of the pyramid created by the Rothschild families. The seal of the pyramid in the all-seeing eye, you see, is a pyramid, isosceles triangle of power that they use to control the world. So if you look at my corporate logo, you see the world with the triangle, the delta pyramid of the Illuminati controlling it, but you see the light of truth, the sunburst light of God, of Jesus Christ breaking through and dissolving that pyramid. Look closer at my logo. That's why I have it as my symbol. I created this many years ago, over a decade ago. Because you see, part of freeing people from this Illuminati band is to break the cycle of pharmaceutical sorcery. Are you with me, ladies and gentlemen? Let's turn to the book of Revelation. Let's look at Revelation 18, verse 23, shall we? Let's do that. Book of Revelation 18, verse 23. Here is what it says, and I'm using now my King James I have an old Septuagint Bible, but it's kind of falling apart. It's old. The King James Version is pretty close. 18, verse 23. The saints of Christ, those that really have taken upon themselves the cross and are really followers, not just fans. Here Jesus is calling in the last days, calling the saints out of Babylon, calling them away. God says, get out of this world. Be in the world, but not of the world, if you see. And it's talking about who Babylon is. Who are the merchants of Babylon? Ladies and gentlemen, the Talmud is literally their holy book, and it's called the Babylonian Talmud. Get out of it. And why? Because in verse 23 we read, the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. Meaning, who is thee? This is the people of Babylon, the merchants of the earth, those who control all of the merchant accounts through their fractional reserve banking. The light of a candle. Who is the light of a candle, ladies and gentlemen? It's the gospel of Jesus Christ. The rescue plan is that candle. The light of Christ is the light of that candle. Verse 23, and the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. What does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? Let me tell you what that means. Jesus Christ is the bridegroom. He entered into his ministry in Jerusalem riding the white colt. All the way through the Old Testament, this is the parallel, that Jesus is the bride, and the Christians that follow him, to become one with him, that are followers, not just fans now, they take upon themselves a covenant of marriage, that they follow Jesus Christ as a bride follows the groom. Follow him in everything, and support him in everything he does. So the voice of the bridegroom, Christ, and of the bride, the followers, the disciples of Christ, shall be heard no more at all in thee. Why? For thy merchants were the great men of the earth. Were the great men of the earth? Who were the great men of the earth, ladies and gentlemen? The descendants of the Nephilim. The great men of the earth, that is a parallel to the sons of Cain, the descendants of the Edomites. The great men in the earth were the Edomites, the bloodline, you see, of the covenant of Satan, the great man of the earth. Here's the grand key in Revelation 18, verse 23. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found, verse 24, in her, this whore of Babylon, was found the blood of prophets and of the saints, and all that were slain upon the earth. We're talking about the righteous blood, ladies and gentlemen. This is what she is drunken with. And how were these nations deceived? By sorceries. Now, the word sorceries is, you got to go back into the concordance, Strong's concordance. The word sorceries literally is number 5331. Sorceries in the Greek is pharmakela. Pharmakela. Sorcery, witchcraft. Big pharmakela, big sorcery. Pharmacy, is sorcery, ladies and gentlemen. And so you see, as you pull back the curtain, you see the House of Rothschild controlling the houses of pharmacopoeia, the houses of sorcery, the houses of drug manufacturing. You see the caduceus, the seal of authority of the American Medical Association, an erect phallus with wings, symbolizing again the god Hermes, the god Baal, which is another symbol synonymous with Lucifer. And around that erect phallus, you have the intertwined double serpents. Sorcery, witchcraft. Verse 23 in Revelation 18, for by thy pharmaceuticals were all nations deceived. How does this happen, ladies and gentlemen? What is the crux of this message? You see, pharmaceuticals involve medications and drugs where they shut down the God-given light. The third eye of the pineal gland is calcified, shut down. People are deceived because they just are flat out veiled. They are blinded by the lies. And how are they doing this? You see, the frontal lobes of the amygdala, the frontal lobes of the pineal, when they don't function, you will not be able to see the truth. You flat out can't see it. Your body is in a state of permanent disability because your 7 levels of light, your 7 chakras, if you will, your 7 levels of energy fields have been disrupted. Chronic illnesses all around us. People, you see, have been programmed in the 50s to get lined up, and first off, before they even get into the controlled education system, they are given a whole series of mercury, toxic, laced vaccinations, which is the first step in shutting down that pineal gland, the young people, then having them programmed into their way of thought and their system. Oh, it's an absolutely incredible plan that has come to fruition. The vast majority of people just cannot see it. So people ask me, why do you have minerals? Why do you have pure water? Why do you have the work of Victor Schauberger and the double helix water, the true life in the firmament in the waters? Because people, it helps you wake up. Oh my goodness, it helps you detoxify. Go to my website, HROD.com, see the latest. If you have problems grasping it, then go to my other website, www.meminerals.com, Mother Earth Minerals. Learn how minerals and pure water can detoxify your cells. You can open up that frontal lobe in your brain and you can start thinking rationally for the first time. Hey, we invite you to take part. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. You have a great weekend. You have a great St. Patty's Day. Talk to you on Monday. Oh, be safe. Thanks for listening.